kind of nice. All right, let's try that one over there in the middle, red one. I knew that was off. Why did I pull the trigger? Oh, that's off too. We'll come back and get him later. All right, so we have Hickok 45 with the Gewehr 98, and I'm really happy to be able to bring it to you. It is such a cool rifle. You know, the Mausers are just special, period. And I've had the K98K, a couple of different variations of it for a while. You've seen them both here, but never the Gewehr 98, the one that kind of started it all, okay? Now, when I say that, that's not entirely true, but to keep it kind of simple, this one, the K90 or the Gewehr 98, was the standard issue rifle for World War I. Okay, and then the K98K, the Car 98K, called by a lot of different names too, was the standard issue Mauser for World War II. Okay, now that's just kind of the quick and dirty, the overview. In general, that kind of does sum it up. World War I, longer version of it. World War II, they had reduced the length on it, more convenient to use. Standard issue realized they didn't really need a rifle this long, okay? And part of that was because of ammunition advancements and different things. So we're talking 1898 and then on up through World War I, and this was the standard issue rifle from 1898 up until 1935 when that one was adopted, okay? So that's just kind of the big picture, because there are so many variants of the Mauser from, oh man, the countries. It would take a while to even name them all if I even had them all in my head. You know, Mexico, Spain, Sweden, just China, just everywhere. This firearm, it dominated, kind of like the AK did in the 50s and 60s, 70s, still does, because this action was considered, well, it was Mauser's masterpiece, you know. And it was copied, we copied it, even in 1903, the Springfield .3 is really a variant of the Mauser. Either they copied it directly or pretty closely copied it, and as well as the rifle. And then Paul Mauser himself developed some of these for other countries, you know. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I don't know everything about it. You know, I'm kind of a jack of all guns, master of none, you know, if you know the phrase, jack of all trades. I know a little bit about a lot of different firearms, and I'm fortunate enough, John and I are, to shoot a lot of different firearms. And through my life, I've shot, I don't know, almost as many different firearms as most people, I guess, or anybody. But I'm not an expert, you know, about these. And so I don't want to get too deep and bore you, but I do want to give you a little bit of the history of it. And one thing I thought I'd do is, it dawned on me that maybe some of you have not even, you've seen people load with the clips like I just did and everything. Maybe you've never even handled a clip. This is a clip, by the way, and that's the magazine where they go. I thought, you know what, why don't we just load one? We've done several videos involving clips and things, or you know, gun videos. Why don't we, and we appreciate Mauser, we appreciate Mauser furnishing this ammo. How about Federal cartridge premium? So we'll shoot some of that. We may shoot some surplus stuff too. But just thought I'd load a clip. And they're really simple to do. You just push on the end there, it goes right down. See, it's got this little spring in there. You push it down, so you've got outward pressure on it. See how it is? It'll kind of hang there. They're not in there too tightly, or they'd be hard to get out. But just enough, the best clips hold them in there just tightly enough so they're not falling out, you know. But of course, you can pull one out. So it's really an ingenious little design. Who came up with that? Was it Mauser? I think so. At least he perfected it. And then you just throw them in. So these are still my favorite sorts of firearms, and I know it is for a lot of you. And so I wanted to mention this, another spot where you can find them. You don't just find these kinds of firearms at most gun shops, although I did find this one in a local gun shop in Franklin, I'll have to admit, recently, like 3 days ago. You can browse a lot of gun shops and you don't find anything except new guns. Some really good gun shops with great ranges, and you don't find anything like this, generally speaking. But then there's that rare gun shop, and most large cities will have one gun shop that does have some of this sort of thing. And usually you have to go to a good gun show or an auction site to find it. So, okay, I'm talking too much. I'm going to save those clips. They're not cheap now. Put the safety on. I like this Mauser safety. If you forget and you bring it up to shoot, it's pretty quick to realize you got a safety staring you in the face there. Well, I'm gonna go back over there to that little or smaller plate. Get revenge. Okay, I think it was going under it. Okay, we need to bring it up a little bit. That's good. Oh, knocked it off. That's one reason I hung another one up there. These big old 8mm rounds, Mauser rounds, they hit hard. I'm gonna try that smallest one. All right, go for the big one now. And they get to swinging them and they'll actually come off the shepherd's hook sometimes. It doesn't break them, but they'll come off sometimes. So speaking of that, I'm very happy with this, the way I can sight it. And I was really thinking I had to hold even lower than that, because this sight is designed for, as you can see on here, this is okay, now I can't pronounce it. It's kind of a Longevizier or something like that sight, pronounced by most rednecks as roller coaster. Okay, now that was not really a joke. It was, well, sort of a joke. You know, it looks like a roller coaster, doesn't it? And so that's really how most people refer to it, okay, who don't speak German very well. I guess that's German, yeah, very well. But it's, anyway, the roller coaster sight is cool. It's a masterpiece of engineering and doesn't use springs, I think. It's just really nice. But it is set for a minimum of 400 yards. And I think when they upgraded these, refurbished them, some of these earlier ones, they put a higher front sight on there, and that takes care of some of that, thankfully, because otherwise, at 80 yards, I'd have to be holding down about that far, I think, and I don't like to do that. All right, so I can take a real fine bead on those plates, and it's fine. So it's a pleasure to shoot. Okay, this one was made in 1904. You can see right there, it's not real easy, see, at Spandau, and you can see the imperial crown above it, and the place of manufacture, the Spandau there, I guess it's pronounced, in 1904, the date. All right, so this was, you know, it was a gun made at one of the German arsenals. That was one of their arsenals where they made it in 1904. And it has been refurbished somewhere along the way. The two pieces that do match serial number wise that I'm most pleased with, of course, was one of the attractions. The receiver, of course, matches the bolt and the extractor and everything. Those match. You know, it's a 6301, and you got an 01 on the bolt and the extractor and everything. So the bolt matches, which is to me the most important piece to match. Some of the other smaller parts don't match in serial number, which, you know, it's not a big deal. If they did, it'd be, you know, $2,000 or $3,000 gun. So it's a shooter. Okay, and the key pieces match. Also, as it was refurbished somewhere along the way, they blued the receiver and the bolt and even the butt plate. I'll take that off to show you. You know, take my thing. It's been blued. As they came in 1904, the Gewehr 98, they did not blue the butt plate or the bolt or the receiver. They did the barrel and some other parts, but not the bolt. So that lets you know it's been redone. Now on these, they blued that one is the way it came, the way it was made. Okay, the K98K there is. So, you know, not to confuse you, but just to let you know. So it's got the proof markings and the and everything, and oh, GEW98, Gewehr 98, cool. So it's neat. I've wanted one of these, but I hadn't really looked hard. Just stumbled across it, and because this one is, to give you a little history here without maybe going too deep, I ain't smart enough to go too deep. It's really, I mean, you could think of it as, wow, here's the one I'm more familiar with, most of you. This is the really old one. It goes back into the 1800s, 1898. That must be the first thing Paul Mauser came up with, you know. Well, no, not exactly. I think his first gun that was actually used or adopted by Germany was in 1871, the black powder. It was a bolt gun. It was a single shot. Okay, used a black powder and everything. And then that was updated in 1884. Okay, I think it took a tubular magazine. I don't know how many rounds it held or anything, but it was 1884. They called it the 7184 because it was kind of an upgrade. All right. So then the French came up in 1886, a couple years later, with the Lebel, which I have not fired. I don't think I've even held one, but it was a real nice, pretty nice gun for the time. Okay. And so then Germany said, whoa, we got to get on the wagon here and get our gun updated, because they were still using that 7184. And they took some things from the 7184 that Mauser had come up with, but they didn't get him involved with it, as I understand. And they came out with they adopted a firearm. It was the model, or the Gewehr 88. Okay, so 1888. All right, so Paul Mauser, probably didn't like that too much, because he had come up with a lot of what they were using, but they had the rights to it. So, but he was still about improving and perfecting the gun, and so he continued to work on it. And just 1 year later, he came out with it was for Belgium, the Model 1889. Just a year later, which was a huge improvement over that thing that Germany had adopted, the Model 88. And then he just continued through the early 90s, perfecting and working on the bolt and the firearms. And along about the middle of the 1890s, he really patented this bolt the way it is. So there was a process there of almost 20 years getting to this gun and this bolt, at least 15, I guess, where it is. And this really is this represents you could say the perfection of the Mauser bolt, because this is the same bolt in action as the K98K over there that was used in World War II and is used in 90% of all hunting rifles today, bolt rifles, okay, or at least a variation of it. So this does go back further, but if you go on back, you realize that this was kind of the culmination and the perfection of his bolt gun. Okay, now it's got the straight bolt, and the K98K has the bent bolt and everything, but it's the same bolt. You can look at these two side by side. In fact, they are the same bolt. I get it back here. It's got the bent handle on one. They work the same. Okay, they're really smooth. This thing is smooth as glass. It really is. And I've kind of done a little demonstrating this before. I won't get too deep in this, but it's got an extractor that just stays. It's known for the strongest extractor. It's a massive thing, and even the extractor is numbered to this gun too. I like that. And then when you turn it, you see those lugs. When I push it in, I turn it, and those lugs lock into mortises. They're in the receiver. And if you notice these one of the things I always thought of a bolt gun is so simple. Just mill out a piece of steel and put a handle on it. No, a lot more to it than that. Back in the day, the cartridges were not quite as reliable, and they would give way occasionally. A primer or even the case might erupt. You see those holes. If that happens, and the gases they escape. They come back through those holes. That's to vent, the gas. Remember, you got this thing up in your face, so that's another advantage. Those holes are actually pointed over here when you have the bolt down, and there's a little bit of a channel right through there, and so those gases are vented down along that channel and out instead of in your face. And you've got this shield back here. So he thought of everything to create what a lot of people say is the perfect bolt. It's just hard to improve upon it. An extractor you can rely on, And the proof was in the pudding, because in the battle, I'll load her up again here. In battle, right away, it was demonstrated this thing was strong, and they didn't have trouble with it. It was rare that things would break. And so, you know, World War I, if you've done any study at all, it was rough in those trenches. And, you know, these things got dirty and muddy, and they worked. Now, they weren't ideal because they were kind of long, but they worked. And they just feel great. I mean, this thing, let's smoke a little pot. It just makes you want to smoke a little pot here. There's a hole right in the middle of it. You see the smoke coming out. Nice. Well, that 8mm will break a 2-liter. No doubt about it. I can't put one on the gong. There's an old can that I can shoot though. Oh, you know what? I think that has paint in it. I just set it there. I believe I better not shoot it. Wow. Blew the heck out of that. Like I said, this one was made in 1904, and so it's almost assuredly has seen action, you know, which is why it needed refurbing, you know. So this thing, really good chance it was in the trenches, you know. And again, I've talked about that before. I won't bore you with my little usual lecture on that, but that's one of the things that makes these firearms so interesting and special to own and shoot, is that they were there, they were used. That, you know, how many guys carried this exact rifle, you know, in the trenches? It's not a reproduction. You know, it's scary to think about it, you know. I mean, you know, some of you all out there in viewing might not even be there because this gun shot your great-great-grandfather or something, you know. Wait a minute, does that make sense? No. But it's, I mean, this gun was used. We don't get morbid about it, but it was used and then refurbed, and it's still a fine rifle. I don't know when it was refurbed or the bluing and all that was done. It was also upgraded to the, I think it was around 1905 when they changed the ammunition, and they put this little S there on the barrel. It's actually a sleeve, a sight sleeve. It's not even the barrel. I took it apart, but that indicates the sight is for the new Spitzer ammo that they went to, the lighter ammo, Spitzer design, pointed, because they changed that from a round nose bullet in, I think it was around 1905. So it was right around the time this one was made. Then they upgraded the sight, because the older sights went from 200 meters to 2,000 meters, and this one goes from 400 meters. They thought that would be fine, but then they discovered, I believe, they needed to put a higher front sight on it for that. They should not have changed the sight, maybe. But and then they also changed the diameter to some extent of that ammo. It was, I think, went from 3.318 to 323 or something like that. So that was a big change when they did that. But that's the 8mm Mauser we all know and love. Okay, and so these things have gone through changes, as with almost any old rifle like this. Like I say, if we had all the variants in different stages of these things, we'd have a pile heaping on this table. We couldn't get them on the table. It'd probably be a big high stack of them. We could bale them up, you know, if we got one from every country and in every step along the way in the production of these things, or the updating, you know. And that's what makes it a little complicated. I've done enough study to know, you know, I've just dug into it enough to know, wow. I'm kind of vague, not rusty. I'm unclear about some of the carbine versions of this. I want to learn more about those, because there are some carbines that were made before this. They were short guns, the Gewehr, the G98 and some different things like that, and the years they came out and the differences. I'm still kind of vague on some of that, but there's just a lot of variations of them. All right, so nothing like a bolt from one of these babies, I'll tell you. It's amazing. It is amazing. Oh, I was going to tell you, this thing, when I took it apart, it had cosmoline still on the lower part, a lot of cosmoline. So, you know, and that's typically used in the military. And so, I don't know, whoever cleaned it up last, which I don't know when that was, they must not have taken it apart, because just below the surface of the wood, there was cosmoline coated on everything, and I got most of that off. That stuff is awful to mess with, I tell you, but I got it off and cleaned it and lubed it well and everything. So I don't know when that was. Since it's been taken apart, it could have been 5 years, it could have been 55 years, it could have been, what, 60, 70, 80 years, I don't know, because this thing's been around a while. Another little tidbit too, by the way, you know, the German military used a ballistol from like 1905 to 1945 on these guns. That's all they carried, as I understand. And that stuff's been around long, so it's back to a ballistol gun if it ever ventured off into something else. Let's shoot the thing. I've got targets out here waiting to be hit. Okay. Oh, let's put a couple on this target here. All right, paper. I won't shoot it too much. I'll put maybe one on each target. Boom. I thought I had a semi-automatic there. All right, bullseye. Isn't that amazing shooting from this far away? Let's try that 2-liter right there. Just disintegrates the thing. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot that blue one for Kentucky while I'm a little further away from it. Stay a little drier. Oh, let's try this thing right here. Kitty litter container full of water. Oh, man. Thank you, Kitty, for that container. Otherwise, we wouldn't have those wonderful targets. I like the bolt on this because it has the follower on the magazine is cut so that you can just work the bolt without having to push the follower down. It's kind of nice. I know that if you're in combat, that tells you you're out of ammo if you can't get the bolt forward. So disadvantage in combat, but for my purposes, I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so I showed you how these clips are loaded. How'd that water get on there? And what else was that I was going to show you about this thing? You got different, now the slings, I don't have a sling for it, connects, if you're going to wear it, I think on your shoulder back here and then up here, but then this other connector here is for when you're going to, I think, stack it or just you want the sling out of the way, you connect it there, and then up here in this little hook, different sort of affair. The slings are pretty expensive. If you get one with all the hardware, I'm sure, I've not looked for one, but they've got little pieces on them that will hook there. Again, I think it's for when you're stacking the rifles or just want the sling out of your way, that sort of thing. But so everything has a purpose, of course. I don't have a bayonet for it. I have a couple of German bayonets, but they don't fit this. I tried them. I believe the one, now I looked into it a little bit, there's 5 or 6 different models. I think the one in 1904, the one that would be most appropriate, I guess, would be this really long affair. Okay, so I don't know if I'll ever get one of those or not. And this is before they started drilling the hole all the way through here. This was like you would print your regiment or outfit on that, but then they later just made a hole there so you could work on your bolt, and I've shown you that on the other gun in a video we did with that one. What that purpose for that is for taking your bolt apart. Okay, and you got the proof marks there. If you're not on the gun, you've kind of seen these. Just the Mauser action is unsurpassed, and it's pretty interesting that it goes back to where Paul Mauser perfected it. You could say in it's actually 95, I think, but in this gun, 1898. I think he patented it in 95, maybe. Okay, just an amazing piece of workmanship, really. It's just a wonderful little firearm. And again, we're going back and back further in time, and we have a very usable firearm. You could deer hunt with this or whatever you wanted to do, and it would get the job done. Made in 1904. What do we have left here? We have, oh, you know what we have over there? We have a watermelon sitting on a cinder block. We wouldn't want to leave it, would we? Without at least trying to hit it. I will, the elevation, I'm not sure about. I'm going to try to hit the watermelon without touching the cinder block, which means if I miss, I'm going to try to err on the high side. All right. What a genius. Okay, now let's try the block. I'm so pleased with myself. Alright. When you miss as much as I do, you can't help but be happy when you hit something you weren't sure you'd hit. Let's try the red plate up there again. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Paul Mauser, for such a fine rifle. I really think I like this one better than the World War II model, the K98K. I really do. One thing about that sight, one of the criticisms of that sight, as cool as it is when you're looking down that sight, you got it's a little bit like blinders, and you can see, I mean, you got a nice sight picture, but this and that, the sides of it kind of block your field of view pretty much there. But again, if the most dangerous thing you're encountering are steel plates and 2 liters and that sort of thing, you can get by. Since this is such a cool rifle, I brought out 2 watermelons and spared no expense. All right, so let's take out this other pot first. Yep, put a hole through it. Yeah, that's what usually happens. They smoke on the second shot. All right, Mr. Watermelon, let's spread you around the cowboy and everywhere else. Yeah. Nice. And let's put one more on the red plate. Boom. Kicks a little bit, but not too much. Again, I tell the story in every video. This does help with recoil, but it's mainly to add to the length. I think by now you know I have a deep appreciation for these old firearms, and I wouldn't stick some ugly piece of rubber on there, you know, just for nothing. But when you're as big and ugly as I am, and your length of pull is as long as mine is, it just makes it more like a regular rifle to shoot. And it puts your eye in the right place. Your length of pull, it corrects a lot of the problems that being 6'8" create. Okay, so it just makes it more fun to shoot, and that's, let me clue you in why I shoot, because it's so much fun. And these kinds of rifles make it even more fun. Just no doubt about it. Like I said, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, jack of all guns, and I know just enough to be dangerous. And I know, again, this is World War I, the main German issue rifle, World War II right there. But this one also participated, you could say, in World War II to some extent. I understand they cut some of them down to where they were more like a K98K, because by that time they'd realized this was long enough, big enough. And then 2, I don't know everything I should about that. I slept through history class. No, I didn't sleep through it, but was it the Treaty of Versailles, where after World War I, Germany was restricted on how many firearms they could possess, military firearms, and whether they could even make any more and all that kind of thing, because I read some verbiage about how they kind of got around that by making different models and doing different things. But they I think they might have even had to get rid of a fair amount of them. I don't know if they had to destroy them or not, but so it didn't play a major role in World War II. If there had been a lot of them, like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of them still available and refurbed and in good shape, it probably would have, because there's not a lot of difference. You know, when you look at the length and take that off, there is a difference. They're both heavy. And now let's see, I'll put this all the way to the end up here at the end of the barrel. So what do you got there? About the overall length, maybe 6 inches or so. I mean, you know, it's shorter, but it's not like you're going from an AR-15, light and handy, you know, to a big 9-pound gun. It's still going to be pretty heavy. The biggest problem with this in trench warfare in World War I, they really needed, if they had their druthers, they'd probably rather have this one for World War I and this one for World War II, just because the nature of the fighting in World War I, the trench warfare, you know, managing that long barrel, you know, and in World War II, there was less of that sort of, you know, fighting. It was more open field and that kind of thing. Although you've got, you know, all sorts of things going on in any war, various places. So, any other lies I haven't told you about it? It's pretty cool. I don't guess I'll worry about that bluing, since it's not a museum piece. If it were all matching or something, plus you don't want to mess with one of these too much. There's probably ways to take the bluing off. I think I've read where you can soak them in vinegar or do some weird thing like that. I don't know. Maybe it would be cool at some point if I hang on to it to take down the bolt and the receiver, you know, to the bare metal like it's supposed to be, and maybe the butt plate. But I don't know if I'll worry about that too much. It's not a bad looking rifle. I mean, it looks like that one in terms of the bluing, doesn't it? But it's just, again, it's not the way they were made. So I can't really think of any other lies I was going to tell you about. I really don't want to. I don't want to go away. I don't want you to go away because this is such a cool gun. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shoot it 5 more times. Okay? Watch John cringe. 5 more shots, please, please. I just like it so much. Yeah. My butt pad back on there. Let's load him up again. Pretty cool the way it loads, isn't it? And another thing about these clips, my only experience really with these clips for a long time in my shooting world career was with an SKS, and the experience was pretty negative. They're more awkward to use. I don't care even if you're good at it, they just don't work as well as these do. And so I never was very impressed. And when I would read about how like Paul Mauser comes up with this clip-loaded gun and how it fires so fast and how it loads so fast, it's actually more convenient to use and maybe more effective than even a lever gun. I'm thinking, what? Really? Give me a lever gun. But you know, when you get right down to it, you could pop those in there. You can be lying prone and you load and you just pull another one out and put it in your kit. It is probably easier and faster to keep the ammunition going than a lever gun. You get right down to it. Plus you don't have the lever down there. So, and quite often in real battle, unlike my battles, you're in a prone position and needing to hug the ground. Yeah, so I have a better appreciation for clip loaded bolt guns than I used to. You know, the A3 Springfield's the same way, the Swedish Mauser, both of these, they just load so smoothly and quickly. So anyway, my take on that. All right, I'm gonna shoot the caps on both of these, or at it. Go. Hey. All right, now red plate. I knew that was off. I can't miss on the last round now, so let's look at the sights. All right. Look at that, man. Gewehr 98. Also known as a G98, model 98. And it is a little confusing with all the Mausers because, you know, 98 this, K98, Carabiner 98, Car 98K. So you can get the main ones kind of clear. That's why I tried to not confuse you too much, keep you from being as confused as I am. Again, just to separate this as World War I, the other one is World War II basically, but then there were a lot of other models, variations. So, but the claim to fame, the beautiful part of these firearms is what? Yep, the bolt action is again used around the world in bolt guns. Paul Mauser got it right. I was telling John the other day, you know, it's a shame we can't revive Paul Mauser, John Browning. Think of how amazed they might be that 100 years later, you know, some of their designs are still being used and just as viable, just as popular today. You know, because they went on to that happy hunting ground in the sky before you know, they could realize that. So it's cool when somebody invents something that's simple, but it works. Life is good. Oh, well, since I'm still here, let me take this moment to thank SDI, the Sonoran Desert Institute, for their support of the channel. We appreciate, you know, their help. SDI is a place where you can get certified in gunsmithing. You can even get an associate's degree in firearms technology and work in various areas of the firearms field. Might be appealing to you. They work a lot with veterans, and just a pretty cool place. So check out the link, sdi.edu. The link is in the description of most videos, almost all videos for the last 6 months or more. So check that out. Also, while I have you, since I'm still here, be sure to check the links in all the descriptions, because, you know, we're on Full 30 now also with all the videos. So there's a link in the descriptions to Full 30, as well as, of course, our sponsors, SDI, budsgunshop.com, Federal Premium. So all the good information is there, as well as keep in mind that on Hickok 45 and Son, we have quite a few videos over there. John's doing the Gun Culture radio show over there. Check it out if you haven't done that yet. Our Facebook page, the Hickok 45 Facebook, the Hickok 45 and Son Facebook page. That's where we try to stay in touch with you and give you a little extra information. Even post pictures and a little video occasionally, just whatever. Mainly just a way to keep up with you all and provide some more information. You know, we're not really Facebookers, but it's a pretty good system for that, even though most of us are not in love with Facebook, right? So check all that out, and you really had better check it out, because I might just have to come to your house and have a chat with you if you don't. And I expect to have coffee and donuts ready when I get there. Right.